Откройте для себя профессию тракиста. Мы со знанием подходим к вашему обучению, а наши цены лучше и доступнее всех в индустрии. Наш новый филиал в городе Ричфилд в штате Вашингтон уже открыт и набирает студентов. Занятия проходят с понедельника по пятницу с 8 утра до 4:30 дня. Наша программа – это 4-недельный курс по 40 часов в неделю. Инструкторы проводят обучение на русском и английском языках. Приглашаем беженцев на обучение даже без разрешения на работу. Есть финансовая помощь для беженцев и людей с ограниченным доходом. После обучения предлагаем работу в компании Starline Carriers. Звоните прямо сейчас. 253 245 91 28. 253 245 91 28.
Новости региона, выборы, кандидаты, стремления. Новая программа Slavic Vote Live. Каждую неделю в прямом эфире. Slavic Vote Live дает голос славянской общине по всему северо-западу. Мы говорим и информируем о важном Вашингтоне, Орегоне, Калифорнии. По четвергам в 17:00. Присоединяйтесь к прямому эфиру на 10:40 АМ. Ищите Slavic Vote в соцсетях. Мы намерены продолжать продвигать свое видение и оказывать любую необходимую поддержку сообществу, чтобы изменить ситуацию к лучшему. Slavic Vote Live.
Внимание! Редакция медиахолдинга Slavic Family не несет ответственность за содержание рекламных сообщений и авторских программ.
Добрый день, добрый вечер всем нашим слушателям. Меня зовут Дима Сашенко. Вы слушаете передачу Slavic Vote Live. Мы сегодня приходим на эти волны. Это получается у нас февраль, 7 число, февраль 8 число уже, да. Я уже
8, Дима, да.
Я немножко, путаю. 8 число сегодня. Очень классная погода. Не самая лучшая, но у нас будет такая очень классная сегодня передача. С нами сегодня Андрей. Андрей, как у тебя дела?
Спасибо, Дима, очень приятно здесь быть. У нас, кстати, погода настоящая портlandская. Да. У нас дождик, это signature weather for Portland. Так что всех поздравляю с этой погодой.
Я одно скажу, что я приехал в Сиэтл вот только вчера, и даже сегодня, и погода у нас лучше, чем даже в Сиэтле. Да. Вот если кому не нравится погода, поедете в Сиэтл, я думаю, вы приедете назад, и вам будет нравиться наша погода здесь. В Белвью, Сиэтл, там, конечно, дождь постоянно. И вот у нас сегодня, как я сказал, очень классная передача с нашим очень интересным гостем. С нами сегодня сенатор Орегона, который с нами поделится очень важной темой, очень важной информацией. А точнее, много сейчас происходит, как вы, я думаю, многие знают, что в этом году это президентские выборы, но многие, я думаю, также не знают, что у нас также локальные выборы. И вот если вы нас слушаете, если вы гражданин Америки, вы будете участвовать с нами в этих выборах, надеюсь, вы будете регистрироваться и участвовать, и принимать участие в этих выборах. Но я также хочу, я думаю, мы не всегда это говорим, что вы не должны быть гражданами, чтобы участвовать в гражданской, можно сказать, системе. Да, вы не можете голосовать, это понятно. Но есть другие разные методы, которые вы можете участвовать и влиять на наше общество, правильно?
100%.
И вот я знаю, многие наши друзей, которые приехали, здесь живут, с Украины приехали, они участвуют в других сферах. Например, можете идти и быть на разных комитетах, и там влиять тоже. Вы также можете помогать людям голосовать, вы можете также людям помогать объяснять, как эта система работает, если вы, конечно, понимаете. Если нет, мы тогда для этого сегодня пришли, чтобы вам помочь объяснить эту тему. И вот, Андрей, можешь быстренько, так сказать, нашим слушателям, кто, может, подключились к нам сегодня первый раз, кто такой Slavic Vote, и также, может быть, подчеркни, какие в этом году, какие важные выборы, точнее, я думаю, президентские выборы, и вот кто у нас сейчас на президентских выборах?
Да, конечно, Дима. Slavic Vote — это организация, это группа людей, которые переживают за наше политическое задействие в этой стране, которые хотят увидеть наших славян, которые были бы задействованы в нашей политике. Вы знаете, многие говорят, пусть политики там решают сами, пусть они сами думают, мы будем думать о нашей жизни. И приходит момент, когда политика приходит и стучится к нам в двери и говорит: слушайте, ребята, надо платить больше за налоги, надо платить, чтобы помогать бездомным, да, надо в ваши школы внедрять вашим детям что мы думаем им нужно. И настает момент, когда хочем мы или не хочем, но политика к нам приходит, и нам надо с нею решать какие-то проблемы. И мы именно заинтересованы, чтобы славянский народ, здесь живущий в Портленде, в Ванкувере, да, в Сиэтле, в Калифорнии и вообще-то во всей Америке, Соединенных Штатах, чтобы они были задействованы, чтобы они знали, за кого они голосуют, чтобы они были уже зарегистрированы. Когда выборы случаются, они могли бы подать свой голос, и чтобы наши лидеры знали, что есть такие люди, как славяне, и чтобы знали ценности наши. И чтобы мы выбирали людей, которые тоже и славяне, чтобы служили народу, чтобы были слуги народа. Так что мы очень хотим, чтобы видеть своих людей в политике, и чтобы наши люди голосовали, и чтобы не молчали.
Да, так точно. И, конечно, если вы нас слушаете, и вы уже можете голосовать, это вы недавно сдали на гражданство, или вы, может быть, наконец-то решили попробовать в этом году, вам надоело уже просто смотреть, и вы хотите что-то сделать, вы можете зарегистрироваться, проголосовать. Сначала, если вы хотите голосовать, вы сначала должны зарегистрироваться. Андрей сказал уже это слово. Что это значит? Это не значит, что вы идете и вступаете в партию. Это просто значит, что вы говорите, что я хочу голосовать, номер один, и два, какие ваши ценности, или где ближе, с какой партией, или с какими кандидатами вы ближе будете голосовать. Опять, чтобы вступать в партию, это вы должны, в общем, проходить другую, в общем, систему, и это намного другая, в общем, тема. А то, что вы выбираете там галочку, что вы там или демократы, или республиканцы, это просто говорит, что вы хотите ближе голосовать с этими людьми, и также, когда вы будете получать предварительные выборы, бюллетени, вот как, например, будет в этом году в мае, в августе вроде бы в Вашингтоне, вы тогда будете видеть больше кандидатов, таких, как с той партии, которую вы выбрали. Если вы не выбираете партию, я еще раз хочу подчеркнуть, и мы каждый год напоминаем, если вы не выбираете партию, вы, к сожалению, не будете голосовать во всех выборах и не сможете голосовать за всех кандидатов. И точнее, даже вот сейчас, которые будут выборы в мае в Орегоне за президента, если там стоит, если вы захотите проголосовать за Байдена или за Трампа, вы, к сожалению, не увидите этих кандидатов, и вы не сможете голосовать за президентских кандидатов, только уже в ноябре. Я вот советую, если вы не знаете точно, пойдите на нашу страничку slavicvote.org, и там вы можете найти страничку, где вы можете зарегистрироваться или также обновить или подкорректировать ваш статус, правильно?
Да, и каждый, кто хочет голосовать, они должны зарегистрироваться.
Да,
Получается, чтобы голосовать, они должны знать, куда тебе отослать бюллетень, на какой адрес, и должны проверить, что ты настоящий человек, что ты живой, и что ты гражданин.
Да. И, конечно, если вы переехали, я знаю, в последние 2-3 года наши славяне очень часто переезжают, многие уезжают, многие просто в другие города переезжают. Если вы переехали, вы должны также зарегистрироваться. Точнее, вы должны обновить ваш адрес. Это смотрится почти то же самое, как вы зарегистрируетесь. Вы просто вбиваете ту же самую информацию, и ваш аккаунт просто выходит, и вы просто ставите новый адрес. Можете обращаться к нам. Я оставлю мой телефончик. Если какие-то вопросы, если вы можете, вам нужна помощь, мы можем даже к вам приехать. Я также в этом году мы будем ездить по разным мероприятиям, по церквям и проводить такие регистрации. Если вы интересуетесь вашей церкви сделать это, вы можете обращаться, мы приедем и это сделаем. Телефончик вы можете звонить 971-244-2228. Еще раз повторю, телефончик, где вы можете позвонить по любым вопросам, 971-244-2228. Также, если вы будете иметь какие-то вопросы на сегодняшней программе с нашим гостем, к нам, пишите по этому месседжу тоже, по этому телефону можете отсылать смс, текст-месседжи. Те вопросы, которые вы будете присылать, мы будем стараться задавать нашему гостю сегодня. Еще раз, наш гость сегодня — это сенатор Орегона, сенатор Ким Тэтчер. Она с нами сейчас будет подключаться. Будем с ней очень интересно разговаривать. Она с нами практически с самого начала. Мы ее знаем с самого начала, потому что она очень... Номер один, ее округ — это там много славян. И также она просто с самого начала переживала за наше общество, за нас, когда вот были все эти вакцины, законы, которые проводили еще в 2019 2019 году. И вот она очень была участна в этом, чтобы помочь объяснить, как это все проходит. И также она была один из спикеров, когда у нас было мероприятие еще в 2019 году. Хорошо, я не буду больше забирать времени. Мы переходим сейчас на английский язык с нашим гостем. Надеюсь, вы остаетесь с нами. Надеюсь, вы попробуете послушать и понять. Если вы не сможете, я прошу прощения. Звоните, я могу объяснить. И, может быть, как-то даже, если вам интересно с ней познакомиться, мы можем тоже объяснить, как это сделать. Спасибо, что вы подключились. Вы слушали передачу или слушаете передачу Slavic Vote Live. Оставайтесь с нами. Senator Kim Thatcher, it is really good to have you. How are you?
I am good. I wish I could keep up with you. I wish I could speak
Totally
in
fine.
an understandable fashion.
Well,
but
basically,
it's good to be here.
Basically, what we talked about just before we came on is the importance of getting out and voting, and we always have to remind our community is how to get registered, how to get on the how to make sure they are registered correctly, especially with the primaries coming up. A lot of folks are reaching out to us and like, hey, why can't I see such and such candidate? Usually the partisan candidates, obviously. So we have to explain. You have to change. Select the party that you want to vote for. We're not here to tell which party to vote for or anything like that. We're just here to say, you if you choose a party, you're going to be able to vote in a fuller scale, or you can be able to participate fully in the primary
You
election.
choose the candidate that will actually go to the general election where everybody can vote.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if somebody is not registered with a party, for example, in your district, they won't be able to vote for you in the primaries, correct?
Correct. They
Yeah.
would in the general,
in
assuming I make it through the primary.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I know we know where you all are. Do you have any contendants right now, or anybody going against you?
Well, right now, I just won the election in November 2022. So in the Senate, we have 4-year terms. So I'm not up until 2026.
Right.
But I was term limited recently by a decision from the Supreme
Right.
Court. There is one shred of hope, though I honestly wasn't seriously I have to say I was not planning to run again. I wasn't planning to run again last time either. So you just never know. But my family is starting to scatter, and I'm just kind of wanting to follow them.
Right. Well, we'll
Yeah.
jump into that conversation shortly,
Yeah.
because we do want to get into that a little bit, and because that is something that's confusing for a lot of folks, and that's obviously going to affect a lot of 10 senators, right? Are being affected
10
by
of
it.
us, yes.
Yeah. So we'll get into that just a second. Please, we'd love to know about you more, and where you're from, where'd you grow up, or and all that good stuff.
Wow. Well, I'll start back in. I was just really briefly. I was born in Pocatello, Idaho.
Idaho.
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy, and even though that's an inland state, they have a big lake there, and they did some naval training there. He was a submariner during the Cold War, actually, and he still doesn't talk about some things there because he's just very tight-lipped. But we moved around a bit and settled in Oregon in the 70s. And I've been here most of my life since then. So right now I live in Kaiser, Oregon. It's just north of Salem. So I'm real close to the capital. And I have 4 kids.
Awesome.
They are all married and they have kids. And like I said, my family's starting to scatter. So I kind of want to go visit them. And it's I have 9 grandkids now. So it's
Right.
wonderful.
And you're also a business owner, is that correct?
Yes, KT Contracting is a business of mine. Started it in 92. I had to think back. And it's we do work in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. So
Is that like what kind of construction is it?
more public works, but we do a lot of traffic control and signing and anything to do with funneling traffic and telling them where to go.
Okay.
Putting up also putting up rail on the side of light rail projects.
So basically, you're responsible for a lot of the traffic in Oregon.
Yes, we just do it just we screw it up just for the fun of it. No, I'm just kidding. It seems that way sometimes.
For sure. Is
It
it
does
ever
seem that
going to
way
get better
sometimes.
in Oregon?
Oh my
The
gosh.
traffic?
You know, here's an interesting thing. It was about 1996, they said we are no longer having road construction ahead signs. They're going to be turning to road work ahead signs. meaning we're not constructing any more roads. We're just working on them. And that was kind of this attitude change back in the mid-90s that it's true. They haven't really built any more roads, have they?
So it's just
So-
mostly maintenance.
Mostly maintenance.
Are they ever going to expand I-5, I-205, any of that?
Well, they're talking about a bridge, a new
Right.
bridge, but other than that,
And that's the one, and we'll get into that as well. Is that the toll bridge? Or is
no,
that
I'm sure the Columbia River Bridge, and
Okay.
I'm sure tolls are involved with that.
Right.
They would like to toll the world right now at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, I've been on the East Coast in Seattle. Everywhere is tolls, and it's a terrible experience. So we're hoping it's not going to come here, but it seems like it's inevitable.
It sure feels like it.
Right.
It's a lot of opposition, of
Right.
course.
Well, tell us, how did you get involved? What made you decide to jump in? What was your first race and all that good stuff?
Well, there was a big tax increase passed in 2003. At the time, it was the largest tax increase in Oregon history. And I was part of the movement to gather signatures to put it back on the ballot so the voters could vote on it and reject it, right? Well, that worked. But people in this group also said, we need to replace the representative who voted for this darn thing. And we need to find somebody that's not going to take us for granted. And I'm like, yeah, we sure do. And pretty soon, eyes were turning towards me. I'm like, whoa, no. And eventually, it just kind of, I sort of guilted into it. But I did pray about it, actually. And it was just an unexpected answer. So here I am.
Awesome. So it was basically something that was kind of threw in your lap, basically.
Kind of. It was never on my life's to-do list. So
Fascinating.
And now you're doing a lot of trainings. I know you just came from a training just a couple of weeks ago. Andre was there.
yeah.
What kind of trainings do you usually like to do?
Usually they ask me to do one on how to testify to a board, commission, committee, and then another one on how to lobby a legislator. And they're different, but kind of the same. You would lobby your legislator one-on-one. You'd go in and talk to them, leave them a leaf, a one-page explanation, and maybe talk to them, call them, email them personally. That's more of a one-on-one thing. And then when you're talking to the board, or in this case, the committee, it's the whole group.
Right.
You're talking to everybody at once, saying probably many of the same things and bringing out many of the same points. But there's ways of addressing the committee, what to do, when to sign up. There's just different rules that you have to adhere to. And so they usually ask me to do that little explanation.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, we met you originally back in 2019. That was kind of the birth of the Slavic community getting more involved, right? It was a lot of the Russian Old Believers. What was, I guess, because we started following the current Oregon politics 2019. What was the climate like when we were coming in? Like, I know it was kind of crazy. It was the vaccine bill, the gun bills, the gas
Cap and
bill, cap and
trade,
trade,
yeah.
all of that. Because we didn't know what we were going in for, and obviously we learned really quickly. A lot of the things that were happening. So, I guess recall, what was going on back then, because we came in kind of towards the end, and we were like, why can't we change anything? But we came in towards the end, basically. So,
Well, in any legislative body or lawmaking body, whether it's a city council, a county commission, or the legislature, the numbers count. And if you have more people that want something than not, the people who want something get it, right?
exactly.
And so back in 2019, we were fighting some things that we thought were just really, really bad for Oregon, detrimental, destructive. And some of those things you listed off, some of the cap and trade, where it would raise the price of energy, it would just make everything more expensive necessarily through the way they were building it. And there was also the vaccine bill, where you would make a child, regardless of their background and or their medical history or siblings' medical history, make them get their shots, no exceptions whatsoever, or they wouldn't be able to get an education.
Right.
So that was, I am thankful for that, because it did start
Yeah.
your movement, and it did start these relationships that were so important to have, especially after the COVID experience.
Right.
So I'm so glad. I mean, you just see God's hand. I really love it.
Well, I always wonder, like, there was that mandated vaccine bill, and then COVID came around, and then that was enforced. And how much different would it be if Oregon had a vaccine mandate, like, like they were trying to? Like, it just seems too, I don't know the word that I want to say, but it's like, it's just kind of like, it seems like it's been planned almost. But I don't know.
It does seem that way,
seems
doesn't
like
it? And didn't they come out with a movie Pandemic beforehand?
Right.
Yeah.
So all that, it seems very interesting.
It is very interesting.
Right. But I know people have different theories. We don't really get into that. We're more of an educational program, so we'll that's maybe for another time as well. But anyway, tell us. Obviously, you just came from the Capitol.
Straight from the Capitol.
Straight from the Capitol. Like I mentioned, when we started, we kind of were coming in towards the end of the word session. Back then, we didn't know what that was. We know what that is now. It's basically, you'll probably do a better job explaining it. But we kind of came in towards the end. We're currently in the beginning of the session, and the things that we can do to affect the direction of it is quite a bit, right? So, what is, I guess, going on right now at the Capitol? What are some of the things that are happening? Some of the things that are hearing? What should we watching out for? And just in general, how can we influence that as a community?
Well, just a little background, because the short session that we are in now is kind of a different sort of session,
right?
Where the bills that are now being heard were submitted for drafting back in the fall.
Right.
So it's like the train has already started to roll down the tracks before we even walk into the building.
And how long is a short session?
It's 35 days. So it will officially have to end on March 10th.
Versus the long session, what is that?
I think it's 180 days, but it's a few months,
right?
Several months,
a long time. So what are some of the things that we're seeing, I guess, already on that train track coming down?
And here's another little bit of information there. It's really hard to know unless you're in the majority and in control of everything. You're spending a lot of time reacting. And here's why. You are limited, each legislator is limited to 2 bills, which is fine. It sounds great. But what it turns into very often are what I would call Franken bills, where you just have these various parts all jammed into a bill that don't make sense because they have a relating clause that you can put all these little pieces into that are not necessarily related to one another.
Right.
And so, for instance, I'm on the Judiciary Committee, and we have a whole 8 bills. And already we've had bills put on the schedule, removed from the schedule, put on the schedule in a different way with an amendment, but you just never know what you're reacting to. So people will respond to the bill as it was introduced, and then there will have been an amendment drop that will replace the entire bill. Right. So you're chasing your tail, and it's really hard. But there are fewer to keep track of, but there are still hundreds of bills.
Right.
And they have to be scheduled for work sessions. So whatever comes through the first chamber, whether you're the House or Senate, if it's originating the Senate, it has to be out of this heard in the Senate by, I think, the 15th, next Friday. And in the work session, have a work session, I think. Gosh, I could be wrong on that. But it's moving very quickly. It started the 5th, and already you would have to have had a work session on a bill very quickly, like within a week and a half. And then it goes the other side, and the same thing. So what I'm seeing are a lot of shifting sands. I mean, it really comes down to that.
So basically just kind of reacting. And I mean, a lot of these bills, everything that's kind of being proposed, that's available for public access.
Yes, it is posted in the online legislative information system. We call it OLIS. In fact, if you just put in OLIS in your browser, add the word Oregon, you might get a band or something. Right. Say OLIS Oregon, and you will find the website, and there all the bills are listed there, and all the committees, and you'll see there are 47 committees total. A lot of them, granted, don't meet all the time, but there's a lot to keep track of, and that's why in the legislature we divide up our work. I am on the Judiciary Committee, I'm on the Veterans Committee, and I'm on an IT committee. And we focus in on what is popping up in those committees so we can keep our other members informed. And they tell me what's happening in the healthcare committee or the environment committee. There's so many things moving around. But if there's an area of interest, I always tell people to go to OLIS and go to where you can click on bills. And you may not know the number, or you may know the number. If you know the number, you can put in the number, but there's a way you can look it up by text. And if you are interested in a particular topic, you can try different iterations of that word and see if it pops up with different bills that you might want to track and see where they are in the process. There's a lot.
Right. So, okay, that makes sense. I remember in the fall there was, a lot of these things were already talking. And for me, I try to follow this as much as possible, but it's still, even for myself, it's hard. It's confusing sometimes because you think the session starts, usually the beginning of the year, but now you're hearing all these things. So, it's not that easy to follow.
No.
If you're not really paying attention really closely.
Even if you are paying attention really closely, it's hard to follow. I don't blame anybody for not knowing an amendment was dropped when they put testimony on the previous version of a bill, but that is something to watch for.
Right. Well, I appreciate you explaining some of that, and we'll get into some more of it. I know I've been asking a lot of questions. I'll hand it off to Andre, see if he has any questions that he wanted to jump in.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Slavic community. Most who came from the former Soviet Union, like myself, I was born in the Ukraine when it was part of the Soviet Union, and it just seems, especially the country, but more even our state Oregon is moving towards communism, and what can the average Slav that's here in Oregon or Washington, what can they do to even get started on preventing this country that we love? We love dearly, building our families, our businesses here. How can we help to help it not go towards communism?
One thing is you have that unique perspective. You've seen it. You've had an upfront first seat, first row view of it. It's to get out and talk about it, whether you are in a school board, a county commission meeting or the legislature, relay your experience and why whatever it is they're doing is so objectionable and spell it out. We need to hear from you. It is so important because all we do, and I just want to speak for where I am at the state level, we often just hear from the people that don't know their history.
Okay.
And they don't realize they've been told a version of their history that is not true. And they think America is something to hate, and therefore it needs to be changed and basically thrown in the garbage. And I would love to hear from the people who have had that experience. There was one man who lived in my district who was from Cuba. And he was there when the revolution started with Castro.
Okay.
And he knew Che Guevara. I mean, he knew these people, and he was able to escape. They were promising him all kinds of things to stay there. And it's so fantastic when he comes in and he gives that perspective from, knowing what a bad revolution looks like. And I mean, we've seen good and bad revolutions throughout time. And this is not a good direction we're going. I agree with you.
Okay. So I'm hearing just speak up.
Speak up. Show up. Find those places where you can communicate, whether you feel more comfortable writing something. Social media is kind of iffy right now, and be able to communicate thoughts because they want to shut you down, which is communist, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Find those places you can get through. I don't know.
Organize,
we've
right?
got to. Yes.
To organize, because the other side is
organize.
Well
they're
organized,
so well oiled. It is. I'm jealous. We just need to have our own machine.
Yeah, and also you're saying the other side, and I don't think you mean Republican against Democrat.
Right.
It's like the other side is the side that wants to
Anti-freedom.
Anti-freedom wants to control everything.
Yeah.
In fact, Kim, I brought something with me. I want to show you this. So this is a stainless steel spoon from my house. Just brought it. And what's unique about it, it was made in the Soviet Union, and it has some markings on the back. So it has little logo here. It says nierz, it means stainless steel. And then it has the price on the spoon. Like if you can
Stamped
see it,
into the metal.
stamped
Wow.
into the metal. It says tse, that's price, tse, and 0 rublей and 55 kopeyek, which is cents. You can actually look at it yourself. So in the Soviet Union, they made spoons and forks, and they put a price tag on it. And can you believe it? It was so centralized. They made all the decisions of the price. So if you bought these set of spoons and you wanted to, sell them, get a new set, you could only sell them at this per price. You couldn't charge a penny more. And if you did, and the police would find out,
Oh my gosh.
you'd be charged with speculation. And speculators got prison time because you're trying to profit on selling something. And so all the prices for everything was written out. And you run your own business, right? You understand that it is impossible to control every aspect of your business, right?
Right.
Like
right.
it's insane. And this country, the Soviet Union, thought they could put prices on spoons and forks and for it to work. It's insane. It's absolute insanity that they thought that you could control the price of spoons and forks and actually put people to prison who, to try to sell them for more. And stores didn't have spoons and forks because once they got them, they would sell out right away because the prices were set. But the real price for everything was much higher. Well, it was 3, 4, 5 times higher than the official price that was stamped on it. So just the amount of inefficiency in the marketplace, if we look at from an economic standpoint, and efficiencies in social aspects, across the board. And so that's why I bring this up. If Oregon wants to control, vaccines, wants to control what kids are taught in school, they'll need a bigger budget for it, and they'll still do a bad job doing it. So we can't really have this,
No,
It doesn't work.
Further, I
So-
think if Oregon had its way with that spoon, it would say, well, what's your income? I'll sell it for you for this much.
Okay.
You can afford more. It's even further than that. They would not sell it at an equal price to everybody. They would say, you earn more, therefore you can pay more. They would love to do that. You've heard what Gavin Newsom is trying to, proposing for energy, for making
about
people who earn more pay more.
Yep.
And it's
Whatever comes to California will come to Oregon.
always. And we are, for the first time in a long time, though, Oregon is we're losing more people. Just in the past 2 years, we're losing more people than we're gaining. And we had been gaining people, which is unusual for a blue state with policies like we have to be gaining people. But a lot of them came from California because we are less bad.
And
Right.
a 10% income tax. Let's not forget that. We have
We had the interesting conversation with these people from Estonia yesterday talking about their flat tax and their everything's online. It's a little off-putting to think every transaction you have with your government would be online, but it was interesting and very efficient. I don't know. I don't know if I'd like that though.
Well, if it's smaller, it's probably easier to do that, I guess.
Yes, they only have about a quarter, maybe half the population Oregon does.
Right.
So-
Well, before I move on to the next thing, I was going to ask you anything you wanted to mention about the capital, what's going on there. I know you came from there. Anything that people need to watch out for?
It's under construction, and so the entrances are a little crazy. So check that out online if you're going to go.
Been that way for a long time. I
It-
don't know when are they ever going to done.
Supposedly will be done in 2025, but who knows?
Yeah.
And then parking is crazy because a lot of people are there, and so then you have to account for your time, and then you have to go through what I call the TSA. It's not TSA, but it's security like that, where you have
Right.
to put your bags through, and anyway, just allow time.
Right.
But it would not hurt to just come and visit and watch a committee meeting in person and kind of see the rhythm of it, meet with some friendly legislators, and just dip your feet in the water a little bit and see if maybe next time you can prepare and maybe get a few people together and go down there
Right.
and testify on behalf of
Well,
someone.
so in like last session we had some crazy things like HB 2002. Is there anything like that coming out of this session that's crazy?
No. I've had people ask me, why did you even show up? And I said, because there's no galvanizing, horrible bill like there was last
Right.
time. And just the usual parade of bad bills, the normal stuff. The normal bad, not the galvanizing horrible.
Right.
So, yeah, there's going to be bills that we hate and bills that we don't like that are definitely freedom robbing or authoritarian, but not as bad as that one, I don't think.
That's good. Well, since I brought up 2002, tell us a little bit what happened, I guess, last year, because obviously that's going to affect you and 10 other senators. Are you going to be able to run or not? I know you said you're probably not going to run anyway. When is that even? Is that going to be like immediately, or is that during your next re-election? How does that even work? Or I'm guessing there's really no it's not a thing that anybody knows about, so it's just kind of up for whoever is interpreting it, right?
So we were talking about 2019, and we were talking about cap and trade, and we were talking those resulted in walkouts from Republicans because we wanted to stop those things that would really harm people in Oregon. And then they wanted to bring up the same things for the short session in 2020. Same thing. We walked out. And so in response to those walkouts, regardless of the fact that the other side has chosen to do those over the years in protest, whatever, they decided they were going to put a measure on the ballot that said any legislator that is absent, unexcused more than 10 times will not be qualified to run again after their term expires. That's what it said. So this last time we did walk out, not, assuming that we probably wouldn't be able to run again.
Right.
But the language says after your term expires. Well, your term is expired as soon as the next person is sworn in, which is after the election.
Right.
So there was a court case that said, well, these are the words. These are the plain words of what was passed as a constitutional amendment to the Oregon Constitution. And they decided to go with the intention rather than the plain English words on the paper.
And that was just recently
that was
Supreme
a
Court.
recent Supreme Court decision.
Right.
So that's why I say I was term limited, because I was one of the 10 this last time. But there is one case in a federal court right now. It has more to do with First Amendment issues. And they get oral arguments this Friday. And this is brought to us by Senator Linthicum and Senator Boquist. But it would benefit all of us if, assuming we get a good decision out of the Ninth Circuit. And they drew a Clinton appointed judge, a Trump appointed judge, and a Bush appointed judge, which is a pretty good combination. But we'll see what happens. They did promise a decision before the 1st of March, which is when filing deadlines are.
Right.
So,
well, you're up for election. You said 2026, right?
2026 is when.
You got nothing to. I guess that's something that you're not gonna think about until next year, right?
Right, but with Senator Linthicum is
he's coming up.
He's coming up this year.
Is it correct that I heard his wife is gonna probably run for?
Yes.
Okay.
Diane, she'll be great.
Did she already file?
I don't know the particulars on that, but I know that is the plan.
Yeah. And I know she's been
so
right next to him this whole time, so she's
terrific.
That'll be exciting to see that turn. Who else out of the 10 senators, if you remember their all names?
Well, let's see. There's Fred Girod. Bill Hansel said he's not running again anyway. He was one of the 10. Lynn Finley was one of the 10. He said he's not going to run again either. There was
Daniel Bonham.
Yes, Daniel Bonham is one of them. Oh, he just got into the Senate too.
Is he gonna fight it?
He did. He funded a lot of it. Of the court fight, he did.
Because we had him on last year, and he came.
He's dynamite.
Yeah. He came on actually the day when everybody, the couple that ended up going back. That's the day he came on the radio, and he was distraught, and he was just beat after just going through all that battle.
Yeah.
Well, my question that I often think about, because I know there's, you know, all of the senators walked out. They were, you know, on the way to defeat this bill or to stop it, and then we had some that came back, and they still now have to get, you know, lose their, you know, their seat. Like I don't understand the logic behind all that, and I'm sure
I don't either.
most Oregonians don't understand either.
I don't either. We were like snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, you know,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned.
And this
but
only affects the Senate, not the House.
just the Senate, the House stayed.
Wow.
Here we are.
Well,
I know I would hate to have been in the room
Yeah.
where they were dealing, and so I hate to judge, but then
Right.
I also am judging because there was so much more that
Right.
was at issue here other than the things they think they addressed.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to revisit that question one day and look into it more. So we don't repeat these mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. So I guess, yeah. So that's going to be obviously going to be, you know, reoccurring issue that's going to be probably going on for a while, you know, because you're going to be up for election in a couple of years, and that's probably going to be continually coming up and deciding. Do you think the Supreme Court or any other legal process will help turn that around at all?
No, this decision from the Oregon Supreme Court was the end of the line on that one because it was simply an interpretation by our Supreme Court on our
Right.
constitutional
Well, what
amendment.
about the United
So-
States Supreme Court? Can we?
So since there's a case in the federal court, maybe. I mean,
Okay.
that would be a long shot. But right now it's an appeal, and that's
Right.
what I was telling you. There's
Right.
oral arguments Friday.
Okay. And there's no precedent that can help.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the legal mind on that one, but
Right. Well, thanks for clearing some of that up. That, you know, we brought up tolls. You know, tell us a little bit about that because that's coming, or at least that's been, you know, talked about. And I know Clackamas is a big chunk of where it's like. Tell us a little bit. What should we expect for it to look like, and how soon do you think that's coming? Is it possible to defeat it?
there are so many attempts right now to defeat it, and there are ballot measures being brought forward. There are people, testifying in the transportation committee and all that. But I don't know. I don't know if it's possible. I'm not on those committees, so I'm not sure of all the intricacies of the tolling and the tolling plan. I just know that that plan was approved back in a few years ago, and it's like nobody realized it. Nobody. I don't know if the legislators who voted for it didn't realize it, or they just felt like, well, for now we can get these roads funded and we'll deal with that mess later. I don't know what the thought process was.
Mm-hmm. So, but it looks like it's your guess is it is coming, and we should be expecting it.
I would definitely treat it like it's coming.
Yeah.
Because you can't sit back on your laurels. You have to make your
Right.
voice heard. It
Well,
goes back to that.
My worry is when they say, I'm guessing they're saying this is like the only one, but then it's always going to come more. There's always going to be more. It's
yeah.
just like get this thing, one thing in, and then you can just continue bringing
And then
more
go
of it.
all over the state,
Yeah.
wherever you go. Yeah, that's the concern, and it's
Yeah.
a valid concern. They just look at their own examples. They keep saying, well, they're everywhere else. They're in Washington. You go back to the East Coast, and there are toll roads everywhere. Why can't we do it here? Well, that's exactly, what happens. It spreads like a virus.
But it affects the low-income families more than anybody else.
Of course, and you would think
Yeah.
that they would be sensitive to that. But
And I don't understand what the logic is behind tolls. What are they saying? What's the logic? Because I don't understand it.
rather, they're not getting enough funding from gas tax, and more efficient vehicles are coming on the road, yet they're wearing down the road in the same fashion, but they're not paying their share. But we also need to build up roads and rebuild infrastructure, and so we need this additional revenue. That's more or less my takeaway from what I've heard. So,
I mean, when I look at all the constructions, it never seems to be fixing anything. It never gets better. So the more money they tax it, but it never does anything good. So
I was dodging potholes on the way here on the back roads, I tell you.
all the time.
Yeah.
And you start memorizing them, and you have to avoid, because if you don't, you're gonna miss it, and you're gonna
You go clunk hard on your rims.
exactly. Well, I've been asking a lot of questions. Andre, go ahead and jump in if you have anything.
Yeah, maybe take some of the 9.9% income tax, and just take a little chunk of that and pay for the new bridges. Now 9.9% is a lot,
right,
on income. So
for sure. Yeah. Any questions you want to jump in? Because we're unfortunately coming to an end of our program. So if there's anything last minute things you want to say before I kind of close it off with a few last questions.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
One question that I had, the community is. Speaking of some of the things that are in the current committees that are being proposed, a big chunk of the community are home care providers. They are watching over their family, over their loved ones. So a big chunk of the Slavic community are in home care work. My understanding, there is a bill that's being proposed, and I haven't looked into it too much, and I don't know. I'm curious how it's going to affect the community on this side, and maybe you're not really aware of it. My understanding, they're trying to privatize or do something with home care workers where they have to pay, right now they don't have to pay the union dues. And with that bill, it's basically going to put it in a situation where they have to pay union dues. And I know that a lot of them are, they finding out about the Janus versus AFSCME Supreme Court decision. They're opting out because they don't see a purpose in it. But this is a way for unions to go around and still charge them to essentially privatize the home care workers, and for lack of a better word. But you haven't been hearing much about it.
They did something similar with another group of people that are just taking care of their family members, and it was several years ago.
Right.
They wanted to unionize them. It was, I don't know. It's why would they do that? And it's because they get money, they get the dues from it, and they're looking for this income because they're getting reduced income because of people opting out of the unions, right?
Exactly.
So they need to find another way to get their revenue.
Yep. Well, I know SCIU lost a lot of members, and they keep losing. I mean, mostly because they're not doing much good for their members. But this is a conversation for another time. Unfortunately, we're coming to an end. I just wanted to, kind of give you the platform to speak. If there's anything else you have in your mind, anything on your heart, that you want to just put up to the community, you're welcome to. The camera is right there, one of these cameras. If you want to speak directly to the community, or if you pretty much said everything you have, then we'll just move on.
Well, I would just like to reemphasize the importance of having their voice heard, even through interpreter. Even if there's somebody who has a great story, but they don't speak English, so what?
Right.
Bring an interpreter. We've heard from many people that don't speak English that give compelling stories and witnesses to what they've experienced, and that is so important.
Right. And you hear from folks probably every day. And what are some of the most, I guess, memorable things that you hear from people?
I had somebody stop by my office today and talk about how we need to end, and I can't remember what he called it, but it was some rating of what kind of life you have, and are you worthwhile? If you have autism, you're going to be rated differently than somebody who does not have autism.
That's weird.
And therefore, when it comes to paying for something, they're going to be judging, well, is it worth it for you? And I'm like, wow, yeah, that would be really weaponized against our population right now, especially as things are. And so he had a bill to end it, this rating of people, and they're, based on their disabilities, essentially. And I had never heard of that before. That's just it's just important that we hear from you, because I'd never heard of that before. And he came in and talked to me about it, and I wouldn't have known about it otherwise.
It sounds like something that's coming.
Yeah. It's in place now.
It's in place now.
And they want to end it. So this is good.
Yeah.
I think.
It's good to put a light to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously we have a big 2024 election that's coming up. Anything you're excited for? What are you looking forward to?
Wow, looking forward to. I don't know if I'd put it that way. Honestly, I think we need to do a lot of preparing for whatever chaos might ensue, whether it's war or whatever they're going to try to do to, slow things down, keep them from going a particular direction.
Right.
So
Are you with your businesses? What have you like? What kind of impact have you seen just in the last, say, 10 years with everything that's been coming down?
well, I mean, things are a little slower for us, but it could be because we're starting to graduate from these small business programs
Right.
because we've been in place for a little while longer. We're not a new company anymore. So, but I think what everybody's seeing is prices going way up, and you just have to buy less and step down in your desires or trade. You know, I need this, but I guess I don't really have to have that. I mean,
Right.
people are just making these decisions all over,
Right.
slowly being drowned.
Right. And
Debt.
Andre, anything that you can say the same thing, because you're also a business owner. You know, what have you seen in the last 10 years that kind of affected your business?
Yeah, well, like taxes going up every seems like every year, every half a year.
Minimum wage, yeah.
Everything going up. So I'm just really, like thinking out loud whether it would be possible to get rid of the income tax in Oregon. You know, if Oregon
love
can
that.
join the other states without no income taxes.
Well, we got rid of the
Yeah.
gas,
Yeah.
pumping your own gas. We finally got that on
Yeah.
I think that's like the best thing that came out of it last year. And in my opinion,
Mhm.
I'm sure others have their arguments of why that was a bad idea.
The states that depend on more volatile income revenue sources, such as income taxes, and especially the corporate income tax, have a harder time with their budgets. Well, we're there. The ones actually, and I hate to say it 'cause this is a nasty word in Oregon, sales tax states do bad. If it's a big if we could replace one of the other taxes, like an income tax or property tax, with sales tax, I don't know, but I don't know what the details would look like on that. But I definitely don't want to see all three of those
Yeah.
taxes. That'd be awful.
Yeah.
Boston
Horrible.
Tea Party is what I'm remembering.
Oh gosh, yeah. Oregon has rebelled on the sales tax 9 times.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Well,
Well, if you're gonna do sales tax, get rid of the income tax.
yes, and then put the amount where it can't be changed and monkeyed with by
Yeah.
every few months. 'Cause, yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's been, I know
Yes.
we've been trying to have you on for a couple of years now, ever since you were, last time running, and we just never made it work. And I'm glad you're able to make it. Thank you for traveling almost 2 hours from the capital and giving us an update. Any last comments?
Other than thank you, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Andre. Anything?
Yeah, Kim, thank you for fighting for our freedom and for the way of American life. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
With the Republican
Yes.
Party, there's senators and representatives that care for freedom
Yes.
and individuality and capitalism. And I want to thank you for that.
And the founding of
Yeah.
our country,
And the
even though it
founding.
wasn't by perfect people, more perfect union. That's what we're aiming for, right?
That's right.
Absolutely. And we're hoping things can get resolved with the whole you running for re-election. Hopefully you can run again.
We'll
'Cause
see.
we need a fighter like you.
Yeah, we do.
There's some good people out there. I'm not the only one.
Well, for sure. Well, appreciate that. And I just want to remind folks, this is the presidential year, the presidential election year. If you are listening and you are looking forward to it, make sure you do a couple things. Make sure you register to vote if you're not already. Make sure you update your registration so you are ready to go when it comes to making sure you get your ballot. We reminded this already in the Russian segment. When I want to do it again, visit our website, slavicvote.org. You will find links there where you can find your state and your specific registration link where you can update your registration, update your address, register to vote, send that to a friend. Do us a favor and do yourself a favor and Oregon a favor. Take that link and send it to a couple of friends. Make sure they are registered to vote. Make a commitment to register at least 5 people. If all of us, do that, and we do it the closer to the election, the more often we do it. But I remember in the last couple of years, we registered hundreds and hundreds of people, and we will continue doing that. But if everybody did that, we can get most of our community registered to vote. And then at that point, reach out to us, go on our website. There's going to be resources there. Don't forget, you can always go on our website. There's going to be a link where you can request, assistance if you are having a hard time voting, if you don't know who to vote for, if you need, guidance. There's a ways where you can request assistance, and one of our team members will reach out and guide you through that and give their recommendations, and then you can make your choice based on that. So we're here to help. We're here to make sure you are aware of what's going on, and we're looking forward to this year. We got a lot of plans. I also want to remind, if you're go to a church or you have an event that that's coming up, that you want us there, setting up our booth and registering folks. We're really looking forward to this year, where we can come out again like we've done last year and previous years, and register hundreds and hundreds of members to vote. So please reach out. We're here to assist, and we're here to make sure you are ready to go for this year election. Remember May. Do you remember the date, May, for the primary election? It's like May something.
Yeah, May something.
I want to say May 19th or something like that. So prepare for that. That's going to be the presidential primary election. So if you're a citizen, if you are registered with a party, you are going to be able to participate. Otherwise, you're going to see probably a couple of people on there, if not. And then it's going to be a big year. We got a mayor race. Is that correct? In Portland, I think there's a mayor race this year in Portland. Yep. So if you're not a big fan of Ted Wheeler, he's being reelected, and I think he's not running for re-election again. There's a lot of interesting candidates that are running, and there's some of them we are in communication with. Mm-hmm. We're going to have one of them on our radio in the upcoming months. So tune in every Thursday. We have this program every Thursday, and we'll have more of interesting guests like him and others. So thank you once again for coming on. And we're looking forward to this year. Our program is over, and last thoughts from you guys before I close it up.
Vote. Just vote. Make sure you vote.
That's right. Well, again, if you want to listen to more of our programs from our previous programming, you can always find it on our YouTube channel. Just look up Slavic Vote Live. You can also find them on our website, slavicvote.org. or just going on our Instagram and social media and finding all sorts of things there as well. So don't forget, you can always reach out. I'll remind the phone number that I mentioned earlier, that you can reach out if you have any questions, if you have any requests for us to come out and do presentations and things like that. You can simply call or text 971-244-2228. Once again, 971-244-2228. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Reach out if you have any questions, and we're excited for this year. Kim, Andre, it's really good to have you on.
Thank you, Dima.
You're listening to Slavic Vote Live. My name is Dimitri. We're looking forward to next week.
Внимание! Редакция медиахолдинга Slavic Family не несет ответственность за содержание рекламных сообщений и авторских программ.
Новости региона.